Let's just do it. Let's just get into it. So I had written down all of these ideas of things that I would love to share and help people with, things that I know helped me. And at the end of the day, I thought, well, before I get into any of that, maybe I should tell a little bit about what my story is and what happened. And I think that at this point, I feel comfortable enough to be able to go very high level on what happened. And maybe down the line, when we become better friends, I can get into some of the harder parts. But I'll go into it a little bit. I think it's probably a little cathartic for me anyway. So, my name is Katie Anderson, and this is video 2 of me committing to speaking out and talking about what happened and mental health awareness, and as a survivor of sexual assault in the workplace, just things that I think I can help people with. And really just sort of my own way to hold myself accountable and hopefully help others with the idea that, it's okay to be fearfully brave. And I think that's what I'm gonna look at is let's just do it. So let's Nike the heck out of this. So um I think I will go ahead and start with just a little bit of kind of who I was before and what happened. Very high level because we'll have other sessions where we'll talk about more. But so if you have some tea, you can grab it. If you have some coffee, if you're like me and you tend to like listen to YouTube while you're cleaning the house or doing things on the weekends, I'm going to just talk a little bit about what happened and my story and that sort of thing. So, and I think I'm relaxed enough where I can do that at this point. So, my name's Katie, and I am 42 years old. I am a mother to an amazing little boy. He's 10 years old now. When all of this happened, he was, gosh, 3, which is crazy. A lot of what happened to me affected our entire family dynamic, and just so many things that he'll never understand now. But I think that as he gets older and when he becomes an adult, he'll be able to look back and understand why I was the way I was for a number of years. But I am, my little boy's name is Logan, and he's in 4th grade. And my husband is Jason, and we got married in 2011. We've been in the insurance industry together for a number of years. We were, he was in and out of the insurance industry since I started, but I have been exclusively in the insurance industry since the end of 2010. So my husband now is self-employed and kind of works in financial services, is day trading and stuff. But so before 2018, I think that it'd be very easy to sort of create a caricature of who I was. I was very, very driven, competitive. I was very type A, goal-oriented. I really put work above almost everything else in my life. We put off getting ready to have children because I wanted to get to a certain point in my career. Sort of that stereotypical embracing of the grind. I kind of look back on some of the things that I used to think and feel years ago, and it was definitely embracing that kind of pseudo bro culture of like rise and grind and, the pride in working 7 days a week and all day long every day and working till 1 a.m. And I really did embody that. Before 2018, I would say I was absolutely a workaholic for sure. But I loved it. I loved it so much. I think that from a young age, I always have gained my own sense of self and self-confidence from work and from purpose. And I think that, we all as adults have certain things about us where we sort of find our purpose or our sense of self or our confidence comes from different things. My sister's a stay-at-home mom, an amazing mom, and finds so much purpose in the day-to-day of what she does with her children, and I just love it so much. And so many people find their sense of purpose in different things. And for me, for many years, partly because I didn't think I'd be able to even have children, but for many years, it was work, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I would wake up every day excited for my job, and it didn't feel like work. It felt like a hobby. It felt like a very profitable hobby, but a hobby. And I think that I felt so lucky to love what I did so much. And, you know, um, I just, I was really, really blessed in that. It's funny though, because I've had conversations with people about like jobs I had growing up, right? My first job was as a lifeguard. I worked with the YMCA for years. I was in sales at a very young age. Through college, I put myself through school. Didn't need a single student loan because I worked like a dog, but without any scholarships, I put myself through college working three jobs. And so I think I developed a workaholic kind of lifestyle pretty young, probably starting at about the age of 18. And so when I was young and in college, and I was living on my own at the age of 18. I was waking up at 4 o'clock every morning so that I could be at the YMCA by 5 because I was a YMCA lifeguard. So I was lifeguarding before school started. Then I'd head out to my classes and I'd work all day for my classes. At the end of the day, I would go to the YMCA and I would teach swim lessons. I would teach water aerobics. I would work at the front desk, whatever the case is. And then at the end of that, I would leave and I would go to Blockbuster Video. And I worked at Blockbuster because Blockbuster was open late. And so since they were open late, I could work late. And that allowed me through college to be able to work my early mornings at the YMCA aquatics, and then the afternoons at the YMCA front desk, and then the evenings I could work at Blockbuster. During that time, I also had seasonal work, like in times that there was no school, like summer times or things like that, where I would work at retail, working at Abercrombie, or I worked at Linens and Things. Linens and Things, that's two places that I worked at that no longer exist. And I just worked a lot. And I talk to people sometimes about the fact that like I always loved my jobs. I feel like maybe I was just really lucky in who I worked with or the people that I surrounded myself with. But I just remember being at the YMCA, and this was, gosh, I started at the YMCA in Santa Maria. I worked at the YMCA in Santa Maria. I worked at the YMCA in Modesto, California. I worked at the YMCA in Ventura. So over the course of 10 plus years, I worked at three different YMCAs, which also got me started working in the health and fitness industry, working in gyms, where I worked at Bally Total Fitness. And I worked, so I just had these jobs that I could really tailor around my school schedule. And I have always loved it. Um, and I tell myself that, maybe that's because I've worked in places where I've just met really good people, but I've really enjoyed every job I had. I haven't had a job I didn't like. So I worked really hard going through college. Um, I ended up after college going back to school for grad school to get my teaching credentials. I got a multiple subject teaching credential and I got a single subject teaching credential. And I was sort of in this weird place in life where I was like, what do I want to do with my life? Right? Talk about like, that's like the epitome of I'm an elder millennial, but the elder millennial sort of crisis is what do I want to do with my life? And in 2008, I was sort of in this crossroads where I was trying to figure that out and finishing up, kind of grad school type of stuff. And there was a part of me that loved so much teaching and training and helping people and all. I loved children and I love colors and all these fun things. And so I thought I wanted to be a teacher. But although I went to school to be a teacher, I spent so many years in a sales environment, working in sales for gyms and mortgage companies and all of these things, because sales, what I really liked about the sales environment was really the harder you work, the more you can get paid. And it felt like kind of a reward system, right? You do a really good job, you see it in your paycheck. And so I was a college student making over six figures because I was in sales jobs. So I was sort of in this weird place where I'm like, I'm going to school to be a teacher. And there's so much of my heart that goes into that. But I also really kind of like, the things that go along with sales. I like the competition and I like the drive and I like the challenge of it. And I like making a lot of money because that was kind of fun, but it wasn't really a driver for me. I felt like making, a high income was really just a byproduct of, doing better and better at what you were doing. So when 2008 came around and all of a sudden I was at the place where I was going to start looking for teaching jobs, all of a sudden all these teachers that I knew were getting laid off in California because of everything that was happening in the economy. And I'm like, oh shoot, what do I do? So while I'm putting out job applications for teaching positions, I was still working at a gym. I had met my husband, and all of that stuff's a whole other story. But my husband and I, at the time, we weren't married, but I said to him, I said, would you ever want to move to Colorado? And, he had no kids, I had no kids. I didn't know what I was going to be doing since there weren't any teaching jobs. And there's gyms everywhere. So worst case, I could certainly work at a gym, right? And so we decided to visit Colorado, visit my mom, and we're like, let's do it. Let's just move here, right? I'm like, God's will. Let's just go and see what happens. And so we moved to Colorado from California. There were a lot of changes in that. I had never lived anywhere where there's snow, right? I had never lived anywhere outside of California. So all of these things were different for me, for sure. Jason, on the other hand, had moved all over the country, between growing up as a child who lived in many different places. So totally stopped mid-sentence because my husband came home. So, but I'm back and I have tea now, so everything's good. So, anyways, went through college, felt really blessed about all of that. And then we decided to move to Colorado. And that was a big change for sure. Anyone who's ever lived in one place for a long time and then moved somewhere completely different, you know that can be a bit of a shock for sure. But I loved Colorado. And I think that there's so many amazing things about that state. It's so beautiful. And when we got there, had no job, no idea what I was going to do. And I just sort of had this just blind optimism that something's going to work out. And I think that that's sort of been a pattern in my life, is that I've just always thought, you know what, I'll just work harder, or I'll just make more money, or I'll just, figure it out. And that's sort of been this kind of blind faith that I've had for years that really kind of was unfaltered until 2018. But, and so, we went and we didn't have any job or prospect or know what we were going to do. And um, our first initial thought was we'll just go work at a gym. That's where he had met. We thought we'll just go work in a gym and do that. So Jason got a job at the Colorado Athletic Club and started working there, while he was interviewing places. And I interviewed in December for an insurance company. And anyone who knows anything about job postings knows that like the insurance industry is always hiring. So, the thing is, I didn't feel excited about insurance. I didn't wake up in the morning being like, I've always wanted to be in insurance. To be quite honest, I thought, gosh, being in insurance would probably be really boring. But then I sat down and I had this interview, and my eyes were open to a different type of insurance, which is the type that I got into, employee benefits, specializing in voluntary benefits. Don't worry, this is not an insurance video. And I just felt like this is it. This job is both of the worlds that I was conflicted on coming together, right? I thought, not only will I get this piece that I've always enjoyed with competition and sales and high income potential and being rewarded for how hard you work, like all of that would be hit with this. But on top of that, I would also be able to have this path that was clearly marked out for me coming in the business of getting into leadership and training and developing and teaching. And I thought, gosh, I'm going to be able to use all the things I learned about teaching and apply those to a sales organization. Like, how cool is that? The only thing was, I had never done a commission only sales job. I'll do other videos on that, but that was a whole nother level. So in order to kind of convince myself and my husband that I could do this, I said, what if I take this job that has zero salary, zero benefits, no income whatsoever, commission only sales. What if I take this, but I'm also willing to work a part-time job and I work nights and weekends doing retail or something, right? And so we decided to have me move forward with it. So I got into insurance. I did 3 days of studying for my insurance exam through this like insurance school, took my test on day 4, passed it, and I was licensed. I was licensed to have a job that pays me nothing. It was very scary at first, but I knew that I had this part-time job in retail that would pay my rent, right? I was going to be okay. And, things were so hard back then. We had left our jobs in California. I had been previously in a sales manager position in the health and fitness industry. I was making over 6 figures there. To go to nothing was kind of a scary move. But the retail job I was getting, because I'd done retail before, I thought to myself, what should I do in retail? Right. And I thought, I want to be around happy people, right? So I know I'll sell bridal dresses, right? Like who does it? Brides are happy. No, brides are stressed out. That's a very stressful job. So I took a retail job selling wedding dresses, nights and weekends. I did it for a total of 2 months, maybe 3. And at that point, I was up on my feet with the insurance business and I was able to leave that behind and I was doing insurance. So this was in 2011. Between 2011 and 2018, I loved what I did. Developing teams, setting company records. We were #1 in the entire country in what we did and opening groups and all of those things. And it was a lot of fun. It was so fun helping people come into the business and teaching them and watching them grow and seeing them move from never having done sales ever, never having done commission only, to where they're making $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 a year, and they never thought they could have. Very few industries or positions can bring in over 6-figure incomes with no college education whatsoever. Now, I did have college degrees, of course, but that's what this could do. And that was amazing for me. It was so cool to be able to, meet somebody who had, never made more than $30,000 in their life, to be able to get them making these high incomes and changing their life. I remember I had a mom come in who had children that she was telling me she never even got to put them to bed at night because she had to work so many jobs. And a transition like this allowed her to be able to do that. So I loved it. I found it really, really rewarding. My husband was working in insurance on and off. He had gotten into the financial services, working with Edward Jones. Jason, very similar to me, was very, very busy and driven and very much had workaholic tendencies as well. And he was working at the Coast Guard at the same time that he was in Edward Jones. So he was flying back to California every month for the Coast Guard reserves. And, we just had a lot going on in the beginning. It was just the two of us, though. There were no kids at the time or anything. And so we just were really enjoying kind of learning who we were and what we wanted to do in our careers. So I would go out each day and I would be going into B2B sales. I was going out and talking to businesses and I was teaching agents how to do it. And we grew a team that holds all the still standing records in the state of Colorado. And, we just were really, really doing well and enjoying it. And, then it came to a point, probably around 2012, where 12 and 13, where we're like, we're ready to settle down and have a baby, right? And so we kind of were progressing through life in that sort of like order of operations that you think, right? I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to meet someone. I'm going to marry him. I'm going to have my career, right? Check, 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 check. And so we got to this point where we said, all right, we're going to try. And, a couple years of trying, nothing was happening. And that's when we found out that, I had PCOS and I was really struggling with getting pregnant. And so I kind of would refocus on other things, hoping that the stress was the problem. And, I ended up kind of focusing on my health and fitness. And I actually was training for a bodybuilding competition. And it was right after that competition and me getting kind of extremely healthy and really fit that we were looking into fertility treatments because we didn't think it was going to happen, and we got pregnant. And it was just the best. So we were so happy to be pregnant and to be starting our lives in that way. Couldn't even believe it. I think I took like 16 pregnancy tests and all of those things. And we had our baby in 2014, of October of 2014. And at that point, our career was really, really moving with the insurance industry and where we were with things. I had been self-employed as an agency owner at that point for, going on 5 years, and really kind of feeling like I was hitting my stride. Jason has always excelled at anything that he did. So he was at that point a firefighter at the fire department in Loveland. So everything was going really well. And, we had a number of years where things were going really well. And just, work was incredible. I was so happy. There's all these pictures back then of me kind of dressing my kiddo up with the insurance kind of animal mascot. And, us having, I named my first insurance company after how much I loved this particular carrier. And just, we were all in, they joke about how I was all in on this company and this carrier. And I just told myself, this is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And I felt like I could map it out, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. And, kind of moving into 2017, we were ready to have another baby. And we started talking about it and trying for it and just really feeling like that's what's going to happen. But it wasn't, again, right? And this time, try as I might, going through, maybe I'll focus on fitness again and it'll work again. It didn't. And so we didn't get pregnant. And we were just really, really wanting to. A big part of why we wanted to, I think, was as much as it was for us, it was also for Logan, because we wanted him to have a sibling. My sister and I are so close. We talk multiple times a day, every day, even now. And I can't imagine not having a sibling. And so we always knew that we wanted to have another child. So going into 2018, things are really moving. I'm in a position at this company where I'm feeling ready to move up and kind of move into those higher corporate positions. And I've aligned myself with my career path where that is really where it should be going. I was getting honored to be able to move into a program to really kind of groom me for that. Things were good. And in, early August of 2018, we're going on a family vacation to Disneyland and, just really enjoying Logan. He's 3 years old and just loving everything. And so August of 2018, early August was great. We were starting to look into fertility treatments again. Because we said, if we want to have another kiddo, we need to really maybe get some help with it this time. So had a consultation at a fertility clinic, and we were getting that ball rolling. And then 2 days later, I was at a work conference. I'm going to kind of leave a lot of that stuff for another video, but I'll go super, super high level on. I was at a work conference and went into it just so excited about everything. I remember calling my agents and my husband, every couple of hours and giving them updates on how it was going at this conference and how proud of everybody I was. And, that night at this work conference, something interesting about me is that when I am training for something like a bodybuilding competition or whatever the case is, I don't drink. In fact, I'm sort of known as someone that doesn't drink to the point to where people tease me about not drinking. And it's almost always been sort of a fitness related reason, on the fact that I also don't really love being hungover, but I've usually been in what they call prep, where you're preparing for a bodybuilding competition. So not only are you super tight on your macros and what you're eating and your workouts and up early for cardio, but you're not drinking. Like, you talk to anyone that competes in bodybuilding, they're not drinking alcohol during prep, right? So there were so many competitions that I was prepping for that I would go years without drinking. And that was just sort of my normal. So it was sort of a weird place in 2018 where I was not in prep at this point. I had just had a bodybuilding competition a couple of months before in 2018. I was in the best shape probably of my life at that point, and I'm headed off to this conference. And at this conference, I decided to, unlike how I normally am, where I normally don't even have a glass of wine or anything, I decided, you know what, these are higher level executives. This is my peers. We're in a cohort that's trying for these positions we're trying to move into. I'm going to not be that weird person that doesn't drink. I'm going to just kind of fit in, just be normal like everybody else. I don't have to be the person that's like, I'm in fitness, I don't drink. And so I was like, you know what, just go with the flow. And so I had some wine with everybody at a happy hour, no more than anyone else, no hard liquor or anything. Went with everyone to dinner. And you know, with this particular company, there's alcohol is sort of a big part of everything that goes on. And if you've ever been involved in big sales organizations or sometimes big corporations, like you start to see that a lot of these events, like the alcohol is a part of what goes on. And that's something I'd usually opted out of. But, in this situation, I did have wine with dinner, things like that. And after, they take you along to the different things that you do with dinner and then going to the bar for the social event or whatever. At the end of the day, I'm trying to figure out how to jump through this part of this discussion. But um, I, it's funny because these are the parts that I have to be really careful what I say. But um, I believe that I was drugged. And because something happened to me that was like almost instantaneous, within moments of consuming a beverage that was given to me, everything changed. Um, I was immediately sick, immediately dizzy. Just a lot of things changed. Um, Unable to control sort of my limbs at a certain point. Um, Memory goes in and out of haziness about things that happened, but eventually they did get me to my hotel room. And, I'm going to cut right to like what happened and then I'll just go right past that. But because that'll be a whole nother video where I need like lots of tissues and sort of, anti-anxiety meds. But um, so that night, in the middle of the night, a higher level executive at the company pushed into my hotel room and assaulted me. And this was in August 2018. And everything changed after that.